Hey Josh, remember a while ago when we did a video about level 1 spells where your modifier doesn't matter?
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Let's do level 2.
Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to JNJtabletop. I am the real Josh T, and with me, as always, is Jake, JNJ underscore. And today we're going to be talking about it's part two in a series we did, as you might have guessed from the intro. We're going to be talking about spells that you don't doesn't matter what your modifier is. It's just you don't need it. It's like whose line? Modifier is made up and the points don't matter.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes.
But if you're like asking yourself, like, well, why is that important to me? Well, if you've ever wanted to play a class that like casting like isn't your main thing, it's just something you're dipping into, and you want something that's going to be useful to you, but you don't need to have like the highest ability score in that. Well, this is for you. So Jake and I are going to pick out some of our favorites out of the list of all of the level 2 spells where your modifier doesn't matter. And if you haven't seen the first video, check it out. Should be like right up there somewhere. And I guess let's let Jake start off this time. I think I started off last time. What's your first pick?
I think you did. And for my very first pick, if anyone has watched any of our Ancient Relics gameplay, they know how much I love teleporting, and I am going with Misty Step. It's bonus action, teleport 30 feet. This is great if you have to go fast and you just want extra movement. It's great if you have to traverse vertical spaces. It's just a creative spell, and it's not going to mess you up. So if you're playing like an Eladrin or something like that, you're very familiar with being able to do this once per day. And I just love teleporting, and it's as simple as that. It's so useful.
It really hits all of the marks, right? Like it's bonus action, modifier doesn't matter, gives you extra movement. It's just something that literally any character type could benefit from.
All right, Josh. So I did my first pick. What's your first pick?
I chose mirror image. A lot of the time when I'm thinking about these, I'm thinking it from the perspective of like if I was a some sort of fighter or martial class and I had like magic, what would be really helpful to me? Mirror image is one of those. So three illusory duplicates of yourself appear in your space. Until the spell ends, the duplicates move with you and mimic your actions, shifting position so it's impossible to track which is real. You can use your action to dismiss the illusory duplicates. Each time a creature targets you with an attack during the spell's duration, roll a d20 to decide whether the attack instead targets one of your duplicates. If you have three duplicates, you must roll a 6 or higher to change the attack's target to a duplicate. With two duplicates, you must roll an 8 or higher. With one duplicate, you must roll an 11 or higher. The duplicate's AC equals 10 plus your dexterity modifier. If an attack hits the duplicate is destroyed. The duplicate can be destroyed only by an attack that hits it. It ignores all other damage and effects. The spell ends when all three duplicates are destroyed. A creature is unaffected by this spell if it can't see. It relies on senses other than sight, such as blind sight, or if it can perceive illusions as false, as with true sight.
I love mirror image. I mean, this is on the Warlock list. So if you're a Hexblade and you're just going up in the front, I know your spell slots are precious, but if your mindset is melee warrior, this is great. I mean, even when you're down to your last one, it's a coin flip whether or not it's going to hit you or the duplicate. So you're just removing damage that's going to hit you.
And of course, there's like the weird things that happen there. Like if I'm using Sentinel and it attacks my duplicate instead of me, like what happens?
Yeah.
Probably it's probably not going to work, but maybe if you have a really generous DM, then who knows. But
Yeah. And if there was like some kind of errata or like sage advice and you know about it, could you let us know in the comment section?
I bet there was. What'd you pick for your second choice?
Okay, so this is another one that we've seen used in Ancient Relics, but I chose Aid because you just have more hit points, makes you more difficult to kill. I know a lot of times when they say offense is sexy, but defense wins championships. And if you start to get higher up in level and you do things like a third level slot, fourth level slot, now you're starting to get more hit points. So let's take a quick look at what this does. Your spell bolsters your allies with toughness and resolve. Choose up to 3 creatures within range. Each target's hit point maximum and current hit points increase by 5 for the duration. At higher levels, when you cast this spell using a slot of 3rd level or higher, a target's hit points increase by an additional 5 for each slot level above 2nd.
I'll just say, as a DM, having to play against aided players, it's just a really, really, really good option if you're looking for something to buff people.
One last thing, though. I mean, with aid, these are real hit points. They're not temporary hit points. So, because the duration is 8 hours, you can be healed back up to this if you somehow that situation arises. It's good. This is a very good spell. All right, Josh, how about your second pick?
It might come as a surprise to people, but this is another one that has been used actually very recently in Ancient Relics and Hoki Religions, and this one is Spike Growth. I feel like Spike Growth gets slept on a lot.
Hopefully not stepped on, because that would really actually cause pain.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, if you use it, then Spike Growth will get stepped on. But
anybody that thinks Rangers are underpowered, no, that's because you're not using Spike Growth. Take a look at this.
The ground in a 20-foot radius, centered on a point within range, twists and sprouts hard spikes and thorns. The area becomes difficult terrain for the duration. When a creature moves into or within the area, it takes 2d4 piercing damage for every 5 feet it travels. Okay, this is the part of it that is just kind of weird, honestly. And to me, we'll talk more about it. The transformation of the ground is camouflaged to look natural. Any creature that can't see the area at the time the spell is cast must make a wisdom perception check against your spell save DC to recognize the terrain as hazardous before entering. All right, my take on this, Spike Growth is like it's not something you use for a trap. It's not a great option for a trap. And when I say that, a trap meaning like this is set and I'm about to walk into it. It would be perfect if there's a caravan of people and you decided to shoot it in the middle of them. It would be perfect if you had a group of, say, 4 people and you decided to shoot it in the middle of them. It's really good for those kinds of things. And this is why it's in the modifiers don't matter, because yes, there is a section for your spell DC, save DC, but
it's so
realistically,
secondary.
yeah, that it's like a bonus. That's like you used it on someone and then another person, steps in from behind the curtain and maybe they'll step in it too. Like, but I don't know. At my table, I would like this to be a big, crazy, like you use it and then suddenly the ground opens up and like there's all this crazy,
Yes.
horrible stuff like coming up. Like, like I
even
want
use
this
the
to
word
be
cartoony to describe it when I used it on
Yeah.
Sunday. That was great. Like, I'm into it. I think this spell is great. I think you just when we were talking about options, you were like, yeah, how is this even count? Because like as soon as you walk into something that deals damage to you, you're like, it's gonna walk around it. Or
Yep.
unless I guess you're using it as a barrier, but even still, as far as damage, the best value is if you center it on a target and now they have 20 feet they have to move. It's like, oh well, here's 8d4 piercing damage to soften you up before you get to me.
Yep. And it's probably going to take them 2 turns to move out of it because it's difficult terrain. Unless they
Absolutely.
dash.
Yeah.
Okay, so we each have one more out of the main list. Jake, what is your final pick?
This one is really tough for me because there's a lot of good options, but I don't think I can let this video go by without choosing Pass Without Trace. A veil of shadows and silence radiates from you, masking you and your companions from detection. For the duration, each creature you choose within 30 feet of you, including you, has a +10 bonus to dexterity stealth checks and can't be tracked except by magical means. A creature that receives this bonus leaves behind no tracks or other traces of its passage. And the duration is an hour. It is a concentration spell. This is like, oh, you have your paladin or your fighter in plate armor, and it's like, you know what? I got you. It's fine. And like, how many times does like the druid or the ranger come through with once again being able to keep everybody's presence hidden in a very clutch and important situation? I love this spell. I mean, I think the theme a lot of times with level 2 spells is more in the direction of utility over maybe like outright damage dealing. Not that they don't
Mhm.
exist, but this just shines to me. Or dims, shadows. I don't know. That's the right.
It's one of those ones where like it's not it's not so good that you have to take it, but it's so good that you have to consider it.
Especially if you're coordinating your choices with the other party members, or if you're the druid and you just be like, "Oh, we taking pass without trace today." All right, Josh. So there's a lot of good options left, but this is your last pick. What do you got?
I was following along the same thought process that you were as far as like sneaky kind of things. I went with invisibility.
Clearly a good choice here.
Yeah, I'm gonna be transparent with you. I was thinking about doing something else, but invisibility is just a great choice. Yeah, you could see right through me and just know that I'm telling the truth there. A creature you touch becomes invisible until the spell ends. Anything the target is wearing or carrying is invisible as long as it is on the target's person. The spell ends for a target that attacks or casts a spell. At higher levels, when you cast this spell using a spell slot, third level or higher, you can target one additional creature for each slot above second. I hate that it ends as soon as you do something, but I understand why it does.
Well, you
You
got to
know?
leave the door open for greater invisibility, Josh.
Oh,
But that's
fair
another video
enough.
you'll see in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think invisibility kind of goes without saying. It does exactly what you'd expect it to do, and it delivers on that.
I have to admit, the only reason why I took pass without trace is because I knew you're going to take invisibility.
So I mentioned before that I almost didn't choose invisibility, and I guess this brings us to the honorable mentions. The reason I almost chose invisibility and what I was going to choose before that was darkness. It's another one that really rewards creative use, and I love options like that. I love something that you could just kind of throw there as just like, bah, here's my ink blot, and hopefully it saves me. Or if you have Devil's Sight,
Yep.
then
Oh,
you could
yeah.
see through it.
It's.
And
Mm.
that's really cool. And if you've ever read the Drist novels and like those kind of things, you know, where that's how Drow fight, like, you know, they'll throw you in darkness and just like do all the things. Just wild.
I really want to like this, Josh, but I have to admit, I can't see it.
Yeah, you can't see it.
Nope.
I got nothing.
And because Josh got to pick an honorable mention, I want to pick one too. And I chose silence because that is the mage buster. If you could stop a caster from casting a spell, this is clutch. For the duration, no sound can be created within or pass through a 20-foot radius sphere centered on a point you choose within range. So this is basically the size of a fireball. Any creature or object entirely inside the sphere is immune to thunder damage, and creatures are deafened while entirely inside it. Casting a spell that includes a verbal component is impossible there. It's a concentration spell and it lasts for 10 minutes. And yes, the group could walk out of it. And good for them. But this is like the ultimate I'm ambushing a group that has a very important magic user of some kind. And that's it. Or if you're gonna have someone that's really loud, you could succeed on your stealth checks. There's a lot of little things you can do here.
Like I imagine some sort of massive battle and you see this dude who is like running things and he's you know he's the officer being like go over there do this you know do that like you know like and now he's silenced and he has to take his
Oh
time
yeah,
to go somewhere else like and you know and escape it
cutting
like
off
that.
the communication lines. I like that,
Yeah,
Josh.
it's another one really. Both of those options for the honorable mentions are just they really reward creativity. I think that's why they're honorable mentions because the other ones are all just kind of just good always. And these ones are kind of like good if you're willing to work for it. Like great,
Yes.
you
Yep.
know.
Mhm.
So obviously the three or four that we chose were our favorites, but we're about to show you the entire list of every second level spell where your modifier does not matter. So what I would ask you to do, go through that list look at them, and figure out which one your favorite is. And let us know in the comments. And if you have a story about it, let us know about the story too. Tell us why it's your favorite. We love to talk and have conversations about all those kind of things. And if you want to really, really talk about it, then why don't you go over to our Discord and join there, and we'll talk about all the things all the time, or just whenever you want to. And we just want to be a friend. So if you want to be friends with us too, then like the video and subscribe and comment, and we could be friends. Tell your friends to come over and be our friends too. That'd be great. But otherwise, we have a bunch of other videos that you should check out, and you should check them out.
I tried so hard.
That's what I was trying to do.
Oh my god.
But if you think you would choose something different, if you think you would choose a different 6 spells, or maybe one of them was off, look through the list and just comment and let us know what you would choose. And bonus points if you tell us why you would use it, because that's always more interesting to have a full conversation about that. And if you want to talk about anything...
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Bonus points if you want to have an actual conversation.
So obviously these 6, or I guess 7 spells that we chose each, we chose 3 each.
I'm sorry. Just got the giggles. I can't.